Welcome everybody to this nice collaboration between the VSA, the Vegan Student Association, and of course with our guest speakers Jain, who's going to tell us about a really interesting topic. Maybe you want to introduce yourself, Ram?
Yes, so hello everyone. My name is Ram Jain. Hello Nancy. And I'm founder of Arhanta Yoga. And we have yoga ashrams in India and Netherlands. And we teach basically yoga teacher trainings in the ashrams and online.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to talk about mind. So we all have a mind and it keeps us busy and gives us a lot of thoughts and emotions, and sometimes it's difficult to control it, and it starts to control us. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mind today. So mind is bundle of thoughts. Yeah. So whatever I'm going to say today, I'm going to say what is according to yoga philosophy. Some other philosophies might say something else, and that's okay. The point of view I'm bringing today forward is from yoga scriptures and yoga philosophy. So according to yoga philosophy, mind is bundle of thoughts, and the collection of thoughts is named as mind. So mind is not an organ in our body, but it's a collection of thoughts. So when you say, I cannot take chocolate cake out of my mind, we are basically saying that I cannot stop thoughts about chocolate cake, right? Now, question is, how do these thoughts are formed? How do we get these thoughts? Because they keep coming non-stop. So there are several ways the thoughts are formed. The most simple way thoughts are formed is that we get input, 5 inputs. So we have 5 senses, which are touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight. So from these 5 senses, we get inputs, and then these inputs get processed by our inner instruments. So first is ego. Maybe some people want to make notes. I don't have a writing board here. So if you want to make notes, you can make your own notes. So first thing is ego. Second is intellect. Third is subconscious. So whenever an input comes to us, it gets processed by our ego. So now what is ego? Ego is attachment to our ideas. So we have a lot of ideas about ourselves, but also ideas about rest of the world. So any ideas, it can be about what is right, what is wrong. It can be about how things are. So any ideas we have or attachment to them, when we start to believe in them and we start to believe they are the right ideas, that's how things are, that's the truth is, that becomes our part of our ego. So the more attachment we have to our ideas, the bigger the ego. And the less attachment we have to our ideas, smaller or lesser ego. So ego is attachment to your ideas. Second is subconscious. Subconscious is your memory bank. So all the experiences which we have, they are stored in our subconscious, in our memory bank. Like when you are browsing on internet, whatever you browse, the websites, the data, that is stored in the cache of your computer. Similarly, we have subconscious. So the memory is stored. For example, when you go to the office, you are not thinking, I have to now go right, I have to now go left. You're thinking something else, you're on the phone, listening to podcasts, talking on the phone, maybe messaging, and you reach the office. You don't think right, left, straight. Happens autopilot. And this autopilot system is subconscious. It stores all the memories from the conception in the subconscious. Third is intellect. Intellect is the capability to analyze. So we all have a possibility to analyze. Now, some people can analyze a lot, some people can analyze a bit less, but we have the capability. And the more we use, the more it grows. So capability to analyze is intellect. Now, when you have an input, the input is processed by the ego, then processed by the subconscious, and then by the intellect, and the output is created in form of a thought. So I will give you one example here, which will make it maybe easier to understand. So let's say I'm passing by a bakery and I get input through my senses, like the smell, the sight of chocolate cake. Now, when I get that, my input goes first to my ego. My ego says, I like chocolate cake. So my ego believes that I have an idea that I like chocolate cake, and I believe that idea that yes, I like chocolate cake. Now, subconscious tells me, yes, last time when you had chocolate cake, it was really good. I felt very happy. I enjoyed. It was a pleasant experience. Now, intellect is, which is always the slave of our ego, analyzes it and says, yeah, you are hungry. Why don't you now eat chocolate cake and maybe skip the lunch? And then a thought comes, let me eat chocolate cake. Now let's change the scenario. If my ego will say, I don't like chocolate cake. And my subconscious says, yes, last time you had chocolate cake, you felt sick afterwards. Now my intellect will say, you should not buy chocolate cake. Right now it's time to eat lunch. You should eat some proper lunch. And a different thought will come. And from one thought, it's possible that the other thoughts will follow, like a snowball effect, and they will keep going into one thought to another thought to another thought. I will think, yes, I want to have chocolate cake, but yeah, but with chocolate cake, red berry sauce is also very nice. Yeah, but they don't have good red berry sauce here. What do they have here? Oh, that place was better. Maybe I should go there to find the chocolate cake and red berry sauce. And the thoughts keep on going, rolling and rolling. And I can go from one place in my mind completely to another place. And that's how we stay busy with the mind. Now, this is one way of thoughts coming. Another way is that the thoughts can come from existing thoughts in the subconscious. So the thoughts which are stored in subconscious, you are sitting and suddenly something comes up, something triggers a thought or a memory. And from there, you start to get more thoughts. You're starting to analyze it. Your ego starts to take place in it. I said, I liked it. I did not like it. It was like that. It should have been like that. And you go into again a snowball effect. Third thing also to know that emotions are also part of the mind. So thoughts are something which we experience and see. But emotions are something which are triggered by thoughts and we feel them in our body. Yeah. So this is how the basic system of thought goes on. And the mind keeps us busy. Now, question is, should we learn to master our mind? Yes, because normally the mind is mastering us. Question is, should we learn to master our mind? Is it useful? Is there a need? Is there a benefit? The important thing to understand here is why it's important to learn to master the mind, because the mind is limited. Now think about it. Is the mind limited or is the mind unlimited? Can you think anything at all without any limits? Or is your mind limited by a lot of things? Give a moment to yourself. Think about it. Is the mind limited or is the mind unlimited? No limits. Completely limitless. You can think everything, anything. Yeah. So now most of the people, when I ask this, they say mind is unlimited. Because we often hear people say, yeah, mind is very great and we use just a portion of it and we don't use the rest of it. Makes sense, fine. But also important to know that the mind is made up of inputs, intellect, subconscious, and ego. If the mind is unlimited, either our senses have to be unlimited, or our ego has to be unlimited, or our subconscious has to be unlimited, or our intellect has to be unlimited. If everything is unlimited, they cannot create the mind which can be unlimited. Right? So, five senses, our five senses are limited. Sense of touch, limited. We cannot feel the touch of everything. You have bacteria moving in your body, you don't feel it. You have blood moving in the body, we don't feel it. Sense of taste, we cannot taste everything. Sense of smell, we can only smell what enters our nostrils. That's why you don't smell your armpit, you have to sniff into it and then you smell it. It has to enter your nostril. Whereas if you look at animals, animals can smell very far. For example, a dog can smell 2 kilometers. It can identify the smell and follow it and trace it. Whereas we can only smell or identify it when it enters our nostril. Sense of sound. Now, we can only hear between 16 hertz and about 32,000 hertz. Whereas animals can even hear bigger ranges. So for example, we don't hear when an insect is walking, when a star is falling, but animal, birds, they have a wider range and they can hear it. So we have sense limited. Sight. Our sight is also very limited. If you look far, 5-10 meters, you see something, you see a tree, but you don't see the details of the tree. You don't see the details of the leaves. You don't see what is walking on the leaf, what worms are there, what insects are there. We just see the tree. Whereas if you think about the falcon, the bird, the falcon can see from 2 kilometers vertical height a mouse, small mouse. So nature has given stronger and sharper senses to animals, not to us. Our senses, we have more of them, 5 of them, but they are not as strong. For a good reason though, but that's not the topic today. So our senses are limited. Then comes the ego. Ego was attachment to your senses. So, no, attachment to your ideas. So you are limited by your ideas. You can only be attached to the ideas you have by now. Sometimes we do not have idea about something, so then you don't have attachment. So it is limited to your own ideas. Now, subconscious. Subconscious is your own experience, memory bank of your own experience, not someone else's experience. So your subconscious is limited to your own experiences. You do not know what experience someone else had and what they learned from it or how they felt it. Third is intellect. Intellect is limited. Intellect is capability to analyze. So sometimes people say, yeah, but intellect is not limited. We can analyze everything, and that's why computer can analyze everything. Okay. But intellect is limited in many things. For example, there are certain scenarios where intellect cannot work. Like when we are angry, intellect cannot work. We cannot analyze. When we are having greed, intellect cannot work. When we are having attachment or love, intellect cannot work. So there are many reasons why intellect does not work. And even if it can work, intellect can only analyze what it already understands. For example, if I give you some information in Hindi, Indian language, and you don't understand Hindi at all, no matter how much intellect you have, you cannot analyze what I'm saying. You need to have some bridge to understand what I'm saying, to able to analyze it. So all the elements of the mind are limited. So we only can create thoughts to what we already know, or what we have already experienced, or what we already think. There's a saying, it says, we think what we want to think. We see what we want to see. We hear what we want to hear, not what is the truth. So the mind is very limited. Mind is further limited by three dimensions. So three dimensions are: first is time, second is space, third is reason. So when we have a thought, it needs to have either time in it, when it is happening, space in it, where it is happening, and a reason why we are having this thought. What is the reason behind it? If one of these three dimensions are not there, then the mind cannot create a thought. You can take a moment and think about it, that you think something which has no time in it, when it is happening, daytime, afternoon, night, space, where it is happening, and reason why are you having that specific thought, not something else. Mind is further limited by visual. So whatever we think, we see it. We see something related to it. If I will say to you, grapes, if you think about grapes, either you will see grapes, you will see the grapes hanging on the tree, on the thing, or on the table, or somewhere, but you will see something related to grapes. So when you cannot see something, when you cannot visualize, for example, if I say the eighth color, you cannot visualize it, you cannot think about it. So mind is limited by these factors. So when we don't understand the mind, it is easier to get played by the mind. When you understand how the mind works, you have some control, some power, that how to control it. If you want to control the mind, the easiest thing first is to control your senses. So stopping the input to the senses. So you stop the inputs to the touch, taste, smell, sight. We will try one exercise for you to experience that. Second is you want to decrease the ego. Don't include the ego in it. You don't want to include subconscious, which is difficult because they are inner instruments. Senses are easier to control. So let's try one thing. If you want to give it a try, just to stop the inputs, and you will see the mind will start to calm down. So it's a gesture. Little finger goes below your lips. Ring finger goes above your lips. Ring finger above the lips. Middle finger goes on your nostrils, but do not close your nostrils. Keep breathing, please. Now, thumb goes on the ears. So you want to close the ears, and index finger goes on your eyelashes. Just keep the hand there and breathe easy, light, easy, natural breathing. We'll just hold for 1 minute. Easy breath. Relax your arms, not too tense. And slowly relax your hands and observe the state of your mind. Did anyone find that the mind became calmer? Yeah, if you did, just raise your hand in the video. I will just see it. Yeah, thank you. So what we did was we stopped the input to the senses just by closing the doors of the senses, like your lips, nose, eyes, ears. When the inputs become less, the mind starts to calm down. Yeah, so it's a very common exercise. It's called Shanmukhi Mudra. And similarly, there are very many other exercises for this. So this is one of the way. Other way to control the mind is not talking to yourself. So we are going to try to do something else now. So I ask you now to close your eyes. And for next 1 minute, do not say a single word to yourself. Just do not talk to yourself. Time starts now. Do not talk to yourself. And relax. How many of you were able to not talk to yourself and stay silent? Yeah, so. And did you see that mind became calm? There were no thoughts. Yeah. So our chit chat is basically thought. We talk to ourselves. We're constantly chit chatting with ourselves, and those are thoughts. So if you want to control the mind, control the thoughts, stop talking to yourself and learn to observe. Observe in silence, just looking, staring, observing without analyzing, without thinking, being in the moment, mindfulness. Okay, so that was about mind, what is the mind, how mind works. Mind is limited, so we don't want to depend too much on the mind. We want to experience rather than analyze all the time. And another thing about mind is that mind takes us into happiness and sadness. So we have a theory, is called pendulum of mind. So mind is like a pendulum and is going to the happiness, sadness. I'm happy, I'm sad. I'm very happy, I'm very sad. I'm a little bit happy, I'm a little bit sad. Yeah, in some degrees, all the time. For example, you enter a restaurant, either you're happy, you like it, or you're sad, you don't like it. You're excited, you really, really like it, or you're very sad, it's completely disappointing. Yeah. Your coffee comes in the cafe, either you like it or you dislike it. You love it or you hate it. Mind is going into pendulum all the time. And this keeps us busy with the emotions. Now, this theory of pendulum is very interesting theory. It says that when mind will go into happiness, this much degree, let's say 50 degree, in time, it will fall back to sadness in 50 degrees. Now, it's possible that this time happens in, you are happy for 1 day, a lot, and then you're sad a little bit for 1 week. So time does not matter. We spoke about three things: time, space, and reason. They are relative. They're not absolute. Time is not absolute. 1 hour of happiness and 1 hour of sadness is not same. 1 hour of happiness goes so fast, you don't see it passing. 1 hour of sadness goes so slow, every minute counts. Yeah, when you have to wait for someone for 1 hour, you know how it goes. But when you're having fun, 1 hour, shoom, you don't see it. Similarly, space and reason, they are also relative to who is experiencing them. Now, happiness and sadness is part of the mind, and that's why we are happy or sad, sad or happy. If you want to stop the happiness and sadness, let's first understand also what is happiness. So, we all want to be happy. Is there anyone here who says, I do not want to be happy at all? No, huh? Everyone wants to be happy. Now, often when I ask in my classes, how many of you want to be happy? Everyone raises hand. And then I ask, how many of you want to be sad? Mostly nobody raises hand. And sometimes some people raise the hand and they say, yeah, but little bit sadness, just to know the difference between happiness and sadness. Nobody says, I want to be happy 50% and sad 50%. No, everyone wants a little bit sadness, like a little bit, like a little bit sambal with your food, just for the taste. So, but it doesn't work like this. The law of nature is equal. Happiness, half sadness. That's the law of balance in nature. So, for example, in the summer, the days are long, nights are short, and in the winters, nights are long, days are short. And in the bigger picture, it is balanced. But while we are in summer, it might seem like, oh, very long days, very short nights. So nature always balances. So nature also balances happiness and sadness. Now, next I ask is, what is happiness? Or what makes you happy? So think about something. What makes you happy? What always makes you happy? Give a moment. Now, some people might think that when they're having coffee, they're happy. When they're having chocolate cake, they're happy. When they are with the friends or family, they are happy. Or dancing makes them happy. Music makes them happy. Walk in nature makes happy. Yeah. So there are different things which we think, we say make me happy. But then we have to think again, do they really make us happy? So for example, can someone in the chat just put quickly what makes you happy? I will answer on that then. Anyone can just put in the chat what makes you happy. Flowers, friends. Okay. Okay. So my son's smile. Okay, fine. Thank you. So I'll just pick up one or two. So someone is saying, let's say, flowers make me happy. Now imagine someone brings you flowers, beautiful roses, not paper flowers, but real flowers, which also have smell. And in the smell, in the roses, there are also some bees, and the bees are now biting you. You have the flowers, but are the flowers making you happy? No. Right? Some people say friends make me happy. Ravi is saying friends make me happy. So let's say, Ravi, you have invited your friends for your birthday party. You are happy they are there, but now they are fighting with each other. Now same friends are making you unhappy. You want them to go. Yeah. So what actually makes us happy is, or someone you think alone in nature. Yeah, but okay, let me not go there, otherwise it gets very long. So whatever we think makes us happy actually is not the thing makes us happy. Like for example, someone is saying the sun makes me happy. Now imagine you're sitting outside, beautiful sun shining, and two people come, put a gun on your head, take all your clothes, take your papers, take your car, take everything, and sun is shining. Is the sun now making you happy? No. Yeah. When we say something makes me happy, we are actually saying that everything is fine in my life, how I expect, my minimum expectations are met, and I am having fun. And that is making me happy. I'm enjoying myself. I'm with my loved ones, I am with my family, I am in beautiful nature, I am having a nice coffee. So when someone says, for example, someone says, coffee makes me happy, my morning coffee makes me happy. They are not saying that my father is in the hospital, my wife has left me, my business is not working, and I'm having coffee and I'm happy. No, they're saying everything in my life is fine and I'm enjoying myself with a nice cup of coffee and I'm happy. So happiness is different than pleasure. Often we think that the pleasure is making us happy. When we are having pleasure, we are happy. Pleasure is gratification of senses. So when the senses are getting fulfilled, we feel that we are happy. This is happiness. And that is why we keep running after pleasure to pleasure to pleasure. So when we have a free weekend, we start with pleasures. We start with a nice brunch. Now what? Now let's go to meet some friends. Now what? Let's go out, get a massage. Okay, now what? Pleasure, 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 pleasure. Till we drop dead. And still we feel something is missing. Because pleasure is, by its nature, short-lived, temporary. It can last for the duration while you're having it. And if you're lucky, it can last a little bit longer afterwards, but at one point it goes away. And then the desire of pleasure is constantly there. So happiness is not pleasure. Happiness is fulfillment of expectations. We always have some expectations in back of our mind. My family should be fine. My business should be fine. My financials should be okay. I should be enjoying myself. My health should be fine. When all these basic expectations are fine, fulfilled, in that moment we feel happy. And when they are not fulfilled, our expectations are not going fine, we are not getting what we are expecting, then we feel sad, which can result in anger, frustration, or whatever. So when expectations are fulfilled, we feel happy. When expectations are not fulfilled, we feel sad. Now, problem with expectations is that the expectations are always dependent on others. My parents' health is good. Now, your parents' health is not in your hand. What they eat, how much they exercise, what they do, their lifestyle is not in your control. Something might fall out there. Your work, your career, not completely in your control. How your boss will talk to you, not in your control. So when we have expectations, most of the expectations are not in our control. Most. So chance is one of the expectation will not be fulfilled. Your boss might not talk to you how you want him to talk to you. Your spouse might not talk to you how you want him to talk to you, or not do what you want them to do. Can be anything. And the mind works like this. Our mind is trained to look for the whole. What is missing? We don't see what is there, we see what is missing, because that's how the mind is being tuned. So you might have 10 expectations, 9 might be fulfilled. If one is not fulfilled, you will be not happy. And one expectation leads to another expectation. And that's also a problem. So even your expectations are fulfilled, one expectation will lead to another expectation. For example, let's say you expect your son or child to come and visit you. One day, suddenly the bell rings, the child comes, you open the door, you are happy, you are seeing your child. But now the child does not look at you, does not talk to you, just goes inside and close the door. Now you're sad because you expected when he comes, he also spends some time with you, talks to you properly, tells how things are going. But that did not happen. So now you're sad. So one expectation leads to another expectation. And in fact, it's easy to create expectation it is impossible to keep fulfilling them. Yeah, I will say it again. It is easy to create expectations. It is impossible to keep fulfilling the expectations. Expectations will keep growing. So if you are dependent on expectations, so higher expectation means low chance of happiness. And lower expectations mean higher chance of happiness. And it is always a chance, no guarantee, because you do not know if the expectations will be fulfilled or not. If you have less expectations, chance is greater that they might get fulfilled. If you have high expectations, many expectations, chance is less that they might get fulfilled. And that's why people who are perfectionists are mostly never happy or find it difficult to be happy. Yeah. So think about it. And now what we want is we want to have peace. Peace is acceptance. This is also okay, and that is also okay. When you have peace, then you have joy. So you don't experience happiness then, but you experience even deeper feeling, which is joy, and which only comes from acceptance. So I tell you one story, and I think then we'll move on to question answers. So maybe you have heard of Siddharth Gautam, or Buddha. So when Siddharth got enlightened, he was sitting for 49 days under a tree, and he was eating the bark of the tree, the dead skin of the tree. Now, after 49 days, when he started to shout, I got enlightened, I am free, people believed that this man must have gotten enlightened. So they came to see him, and they brought some food items for him, because he was eating just the skin of the tree. Now, one farmer brought basket of mangoes, so a lot of mangoes. Now, some monks who were also nearby, they heard that one monk has become enlightened, at least he's saying. So let's go and hear him out. What is his method? What happened? What he understood? So they came to see him. And when all the people left, Siddharth was eating mangoes. So these monks came, they greeted him, but Siddharth did not give them attention. He said, sit down, I will talk. And he kept eating the mangoes. Now, one of the monks thought, is that possible that if someone is enlightened, that they are still so attached to mangoes that they're not even sharing with us? They thought this monk, is eating the mangoes with so much joy, so much fun, and he's not even sharing with us. How is that possible that he is enlightened? He's so attached to them. Now, Siddharth understood what is going on. So he stopped and said, hey, my mistake. Sorry, please share the mangoes with me. And afterwards, I will answer your questions. Now, monks at least got mangoes. So they took the mangoes and they start to eat. But whichever mangoes they picked, they were sour. We have two kinds of mangoes. One to be eaten as fruit, when ripen, sweet. And one mangoes are made for pickles. So used for pickles because they're very sour. Even they are ripen, they are sour. So they tried many mangoes, several, but they all were sour. They could not eat them. They had to immediately spit or vomit. Siddharth was eating them with a lot of joy. So they thought maybe Siddharth knows which mangoes are sweet. So they asked him, Siddharth, can you tell us which ones are sweet? Because we are only finding the sour ones. Siddharth looked at them and said, sweet? No, they are all sour. They said, but how can you then eat them? They are so sour that we have to vomit. Siddharth said, I can eat them because for me, my like for sweet mango and dislike for sour mango is now finished. For me, they are just mango. Sour, sweet quality for me is not important anymore. I am enjoying them, accepting them just as mangoes. So my body accepts them also just like mangoes. So that is state of acceptance, complete equanimity. So this is also fine and this is also fine. I don't desire this and I don't dislike this. Yeah. So when that happens, then you don't get into the game of happiness and sadness, but you get joy. And that's what mind does. Mind takes us in future and past and gives us happiness and sadness. But by bringing the mind into present, experiencing rather than analyzing, we come into joy. Yeah. So that was a little bit about happiness and sadness. So if you want to be happy, first of all, you have to learn to control the senses, or at least diminish the inputs, because inputs distract us. Diminish the input, stop talking to yourself all the time. So you have to learn to have silence, inner silence. And you have to also learn to accept and ask yourself, what are my expectations? What am I expecting from life? What am I expecting from myself? What am I expecting from people around me? What are my expectations? And then you will be able to regulate your happiness and sadness. And also remember, happiness and sadness both are temporary by nature. So happiness will not last forever, and sadness will also not last forever. It's a cycle, like day and night. Like after the day, the night will come, no matter how beautiful day it was. And after the night, no matter how dark it was, day will come. But when we are in that moment, it feels impossible that there will be ever light again. But that's how nature works. It keeps on going in circle. So think about that. And now, if you have any questions, please put in the chat. I can answer some questions for next 15 minutes. Anything comes in the mind, just drop it down and I will pick up some questions and start answering them. Okay, so Imena is asking, what about perfectionist? It is about expectations. Okay, so perfectionist, very good question. Perfection is an idea. Perfection is an idea. It's not reality. Because nothing can be perfect. And what is perfect is your idea of perfection, like a perfect day. What is a perfect day? For someone, a perfect day will be very efficient, working, fulfilling day. For someone, a perfect day might be very relaxed day. So perfection is an idea, and because you're attached to that idea, it becomes ego. So perfection actually boosts ego. Yeah. So you can have expectations, but you should know that you should not have attachment to that expectations. For example, let's say if you are a surgeon, you have an expectation that you are doing a surgery and it should go well. You want to do your best. So you do your best without ego and attachment. But if the result is not as per your expectation, you do not beat yourself. You are only focused on what you can do, not what it will result in. So being perfectionist is fine as long as you know that if the result is not as per you, you should be able to let it go. Okay, another question is suggestion to find joy from Carmen. Carmen, joy can only come from understanding that you need to accept. And by knowing that everything is temporary and changing, it can help. So when you don't feel things are going your way, and you have sadness, you can only have joy when you accept how they are, understanding that this is the best thing for this moment. What can I learn from it? What does it mean? What I have done so far to invite this in my life? How can I accept it? And how can I let it go? Then you can have joy from it because you have accepted it. Okay, then next is Shreya is asking, how does one start to learn to stop talking to themselves? You have to start learning to observe. I ask students to actually learn to stare like a zombie. So start practicing looking at something and just keep looking without thinking like a zombie. Try to do it for 2-3 minutes, a couple of times a day, and then it will be easier. You learn then not to think. You will learn to just observe. How can we intertwine these notions into our yoga class practice? This is a long question. So in short, if I have to say something, that when you are doing yoga practice, first of all, yoga practice, you mean asana. Asana, when you're on the mat, you should be in the moment. So the best way to practice this is to be in the moment when you're doing asana and experience that fully. So mindfulness. And not looking left and right, how this person is doing, how that person is doing, how far deep this person is going. No, being in the moment and with yourself and acceptance. Nika is asking how to overcome overthinking talking to yourself. Okay, so see, thoughts are triggered by attachment. Attachment is the battery of the mind. If you are having attachment, the mind will get moving. For example, simple thing, when you want to buy something, if you want to buy a car, you really want to buy a car, you will see, you'll keep thinking about the car all the time. You'll keep seeing cars everywhere. You'll keep looking at the cars. When are you free, you're analyzing, thinking, checking, because you are attached to something. You want something. So if you want to not overthink, first of all, you need to start realizing what is important and what is not important. And what is important, sorry, I have to close the message here. So what is important that you think about it, you always assign a time. Okay, I'm going to think about this thing, this problem from this time to this time, and that's it. This is my time to think about it. I will not think about it after, and I will not think about it before. So you set aside a time for it. And in that time, creatively, you write down the problem, you try to find a solution, you discuss with other people, that all that is okay, but you fix time for it. And that works for me. When I have a problem, I put time to it. I say, okay, I'm going to think about it in this time. That's it. And then afterwards, I'm not thinking about that. Try that. It might help. How can you, okay, so Tina is asking, how do you lower your expectations in order to increase your joy? You need to make a list. Write down on paper what are the minimum expectations you have to be happy. If those things are fine, you can say, I'm happy, I don't want more. What is that? Make a list. The shorter the list, the better it is. And when you will start to write down and analyze, do I really need this to be happy? Do I really need that to be happy? You will realize there's not much we need to be happy. You need your health. You need limited things, but yeah, you have to make your own list. Try to find that list and go in the detail. When I say it should be like this, what is the minimum it should be like that? If I'm healthy, what is health for me? And what is the minimum health I can say, if I'm like this, I'm happy. So if I have a cold, can I say I'm not healthy, I'm sad, or what? So find that. Make a list of your expectations. Know what your expectations are. Angela is asking, how do you deal with sadness? Difficult, of course, when we are in it. I can only say theoretically, of course, easy to say, difficult to do. I also get sad sometimes. But when the sadness comes, what helps me is to think that this is temporary. It will change. This is temporary. I have sadness, which means happiness is on the way. And same, when I have happiness, I'm always thinking Enjoy this because sadness is on the way. Yeah, maybe a little bit negative thinking you can think, but it keeps me a little bit grounded sometimes. Yeah, and don't take life too seriously because things are always changing. What gives you happiness now might give you sadness later. What gives you sadness now might give you happiness later. We have a saying in Ayurveda, I really like it. It says, what tastes sweet in the mouth turns sour in the belly. Sometimes what we think is giving us happiness is actually giving us sadness or will give us sadness. So happiness, sadness is a two and fourth game. What about overthinking, Imena? Same thing. I would say really set aside time for thinking about specific topics. See, people overthink when they don't have clarity. You need to have clarity. And clarity stops overthinking. You need to become more clear about what you're thinking, set time aside, find what is important, what is not important, and stop overthinking about unimportant or temporary. Are expectations referring to the vision of life? More than that. Vision of life is only about your life, how you want to live your life, what you want in your life. But expectations can also be from other people, how other people behave, how society behaves, how other things are going on. And that can be also challenging. Maria is asking, find it difficult to manage day-to-day life, work, children, obligations, etc. Very good. Versus yoga, yoga nidra, mindful, doing versus being. Always find it imbalanced, even I really try. Yes, Maria, that's the challenge of life, that doing versus being. So again, I compartmentalize a lot. So this I'm doing, and sometimes I can also experience it, but sometimes I cannot. I just have to do. Yeah. So I am personally not that kind of person who says, okay, if I am washing my dishes, I will be mindful and I will just wash my dishes and take my time and keep washing them for next 2 hours. I like to finish off the dishes and then sit down and read my book. So you can decide what is important and what is less important. And what are less important tasks, you finish them. You don't want to spend too much experiencing there. And what is important, you want to experience there. Yeah. So decide what is important, what is less important. You have to do tasks. When you have family, when we are, householders, we have tasks, we have duties, we have chores. You have to do them, but you don't have to necessarily spend mindfulness mode in everything. Yeah, that is my suggestion. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. Let me see if I skipped someone's. Insomnia, yes, Imena, overthinking causes insomnia, definitely. So what helped me, I had one time with sleeping problem because I had some stress and I was thinking a lot. What helped me was to write down things, and what helped me was to read fiction. I can tell you from my personal experience. Read some good fiction, that helped me. It's like a sleeping tablet, or writing down things, that helped me. And Jonathan is asking, how can you learn to better control your expectations? Very good. You have to first know, what are my expectations? What do I expect from myself and from others? And what can I cut down? What can I make it minimum? Minimum, this is required. Minimum, this is okay. The lower you decrease your expectations, the easier it becomes to control them. And sometimes you cannot control the expectation, but you can control your reaction to the result. Yes. So if you cannot control the expectation, think, how can you control reaction to your result? Okay. Two more messages. Do you have methods for letting go of thoughts. Yes. So, Yana, mind always has to be busy with something. Yeah. My teacher used to say that either you can play Tetris or you can make a life. So mind will be always busy with something. So either you can stop thinking about this, keep thinking about this, or you can think about this. So what I learned from my teacher is to move my attention from to different things, not just get stuck with one thing. So if I'm having thoughts about specific thing and it's triggering me, it's triggering my emotions, it's triggering my things, I need to find something more interesting which will make my mind busy on something else and which is more productive and which is more in my control and which is more healthy for me. For example, if I'm sitting and worrying right now, I can say, okay, now it's time to exercise, and I can start to do my exercise or my asana or my yoga, and my mind is shifted. If I'm still doing asana and cannot control the mind is still going back, then I can think of some other task, which is maybe needing more attention, which will help me to distract my mind and thinking about that, because otherwise I can go into overthinking mode. So that helps me sometimes. Yes. And I don't see any other questions. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today. It's nice when people come and hear things. Again, everything I said, please think about it and see what makes sense to you. Just because I'm saying it doesn't mean it is right. You have to think about it, analyze it, and what makes sense to you, keep that, and what does not make sense to you, leave it. Jonathan, anything from your side? Anything you want to say, or shall we close, or what?
Thank you, Ram, for the great, interesting lecture. I really liked it. It was awesome. So thank you for your time. I think everybody enjoyed seeing the chat. So that's always good to hear. But nothing from me other than this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And I'm putting my email address here. If anyone has any questions, even if you're not my student, that doesn't matter. You can always email me, and I try to answer the questions whenever I can. Right? So here's my email address, ram@arhantayoga.org, and feel free to contact. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.